Now, our last panelist was meant to be Alison Kay, but she's fallen by the wayside. So we have somebody even better, John Hammond from AWS. I've slightly forgotten your title, John, but you can, tell everybody and give us a great keynote. And he's a wonderful speaker because he has an understanding of the ecosphere beyond quantum into AI and other deep tech.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Karina. It is absolutely fantastic to be here. So my name is John Hammond. So I lead artificial intelligence as well as all specialist services for Amazon Web Services for the UK. And previous to that, I used to lead the compute business across all of EMEA, including quantum computing and some other kind of fun stuff. It's interesting looking back, actually. This has been going for 5 years as a summit, which just seems amazing. It's interesting because it's actually the same time as I've been at Amazon, pretty much identical with it. I think one of the things, I remember years ago actually, Karina, you saying this really key place to have of the intersection of business at this beautiful house within Mansion House. And I kind of thought I'd have a look at what's changed in the quantum industry in the last 5 years. So what I find interesting, just from a funding or a valuation perspective, if you'd gone back 5 years ago and you'd looked at the top 20 quantum companies you can invest in by value, so this is looking through effectively where there's market sentiment, where there was reviewed as the top 20, you would have on some of those. There's a few that aren't quite there. However, if you decided to put $1,000 in as a nominal amount, you would now have $15,682. And you can kind of see through that how actually, I think some of the things that were started here 5 years ago have actually really proved to be true. And I think, honestly, this is only the beginning of where this is all going to go. I think especially as we start to see AI and quantum coming together increasingly. We really are on the edge of this new industrial revolution. Industrial revolutions tend to turn up when things called general purpose technologies arrive. So, if you look back to the previous industrial revolutions, that tended either to be electrification, or it tended to be the watermill, mechanization. Now, we have the most amazing general purpose technology that's turning up, and that is the ability to harness intelligence. But this is a real turning point for businesses. People don't know where to go. People don't know where they should be going on this journey. And one of the things that we as AWS really try and answer is it's not the what that you want to think about, it's the why. And when you start to really think about why you should be doing stuff, you can have some amazing, amazing outcomes. So take the work we've done with the Department of Work and Pensions. People daily ask for help, they write letters off, and it's one of these kind of entry points into the systems. People will often write that if they don't know help. They get 25,000 letters a day, and before that had a really large backlog of help, and it means that some of the most vulnerable people on the UK were having to wait for that help, and sometimes when it's too late, sadly. We worked through with them, and we're now in a situation that those 25,000 letters are processed on a daily basis with about a 95% success rate to find where those really vulnerable people are. So we've started to help people already with this, and it really comes down to the asking why. Why should people have to wait? If we look at NatWest, for example, done some really interesting work with NatWest. So we're looking at about 14 million events per day to try and predict fraud. And again, it's NatWest asking why. Why should we have to put up with fraud around it? At the moment, I've got kind of stats that I think it's interesting. Actually, we start to think about, one of the things I love about Amazon is we're a combination of both stats and anecdotes. I think some of the anecdotes we have are amazing, but some of the stats are even more fantastic. So at the moment, we have 52% of businesses in the UK are roughly using AI. That's 28% growth year over year. And one new business picks up AI every 2 minutes. And from my side, this isn't just business change. This is reinvention of what we're doing. We sometimes talk about compelling events. And I think one of the things that's happened over the last few years is really we've hit this amazingly interesting, compelling event that is going to drive business change for every single business in this room and every single person on this planet in a rate that has never happened before. If we take about code development, for example, so go back to 2024, Cursor, programming effectively suite designed to help people with AI-assisted development came in. Roll forward to 2025, we've got things such as Kiro, our own Amazon AI-driven development setup. If you look at GitHub for this month, 42% of all code being pushed into GitHub is AI generated. And I've done IT for a worryingly long period of time now sometimes, and I have never, ever in my life seen a change that's happened this quick. And this isn't just a normal change, this is reinvention of the market coming through. And all of this is going to end up with a huge economic transformation. There's estimates that by 2030, AI will have added 400 billion in revenue to the UK market, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And that's 1.5% productivity on an annualized basis. We talk sometimes about the fact that we have a productivity crisis within the UK. We can see what the option is, and the option is to have AI to help leverage and help expand that. But on top of that, if we take quantum as well, we think that could, by 2045, add about 7% productivity, or another 212 billion. It really is transforming industries. Well, if we look at cost savings to all of this, there was a government report that came out that it reckons use of AI could save 45 billion in the public sector. And when you think about some of the government holes that exist at the moment, 45 billion is enough to clear some of that. It really will shape the next decade for everyone in this room, for everyone back at home, and its time is now for us to do it. And what do we need to do that? Well, we really need to start to ask, why do things have to be this way? Why is it we've taken the status quo for accepted for a fair while, that there's waste, that there's lack of people, there's lack of resources within it. But the more that we start to ask why, not just what about this technology, the more that we start to be able to really transform the future. And AWS is massively leaning into this. So, I was really proud to see this year we announced that we're investing £40 billion into the UK. And that's a huge amount of money for a public company. And what's that going to mean for each of you? That's going to mean you're going to have lower latency into data centers, that's better services, specialist agents, development courseware. And another thing that we've done is we've started our own quantum chips. We have a quantum chip called Ocelot, which we've researched ourselves. And we reckon that goes about 90% cheaper in terms of the error correction stuff. So we are really investing into this. And all of it comes to taking away what can we do and thinking, why does it have to be like this at the moment? So what? So what does all of this mean? Well, today's business environment is more uncertain than ever. There's massive disruption coming through it. And businesses need to really start to ask those why questions to survive. One of the things that we've seen gaps in is skilling. So I am, again, extraordinarily proud to see we've upskilled 1 million people in the UK in AI now, which is an incredible figure, absolutely incredible figure when you pick it apart. So 1 in 68, 69 people in the UK have now interacted with AWS's AI upskilling, which is absolutely fantastic. We've done 31 million people globally we've helped upskill into AI. And all of this is just the start. That's the reality of it. We reckon we've helped about 14,000 jobs in the UK. And all of this, this window for leadership of when we need to do this is a really small time. This isn't what's going to happen in the far future from now. If we think of the changes that have occurred in the last 5 years, with fantastic leadership from yourself, Karina. Genuinely, I'm extraordinarily proud of what you've accomplished. You should be blown away. And I think it does come to this point of people really starting to say, why does it have to be like this? I loved some of the things earlier, and to go back to the early bits in the summit, the fact you had gender balance panels going through this. I think that's a fantastic thing. If you start with the why. Why do we have to accept what it has been before? And actually, when we look forward, we don't have to. And it really is time for us and all these people in this room to think and lead within us. The time for action with this is now. So closing. So 3 things to leave you with on this. So as I've said a couple of times, the opportunity is now. It is today. It is not next year. It is now that we can take advantage of it. It's a fantastic, we're working very heavily around AI agents. So agentic AI, I think, is going to be just a massive, massive change within the world. There's a report out from Gartner, so not me, so Gartner, that reckons by 2027, agents will be roughly 1-to-1 in the workforce. So if you think how many people there are in your organization, or how many people out there, you'll have a 1-to-1 mapping of agents to people. And that is a huge, huge change, because 2027 isn't, it's not the 5 years ago when this even started. 2027 for me is the budget cycle that I'm starting to plan around at the moment. So if you think the size of your organization at the moment, you're going to have the same amount of agents evolving in that, the same amount of end users with this. And that is only the beginning of where this is going. I think some of the stuff Multiverse is doing is fantastic. I think it will come down to the usage of any of the scaling around that. People doing this now will lead with it in the future. So it is so important. If you think back those 5 years, you'd taken advantage of that $1,000 where you would be now. But now we're only at the beginning of that journey. That journey will go so much further. Second, so success belongs to those that ask why, not what. Question why things are at the moment. Question how you can change that. Think of the problems. Think of the things that were just accepted as they were. And then thirdly, innovation needs trusted collaborators. We can build this together as a family. That is my theory of all of this. You know, AWS has really invested to make sure we're doing it both in terms of our training, our people. We have sovereign cloud investments within the UK. We have this public-private partnerships that we go through, but more than anything, we're investing within the UK and we're investing in everyone together. The future really doesn't wait, and neither should any of you. Thank you.